Good morning to one and all. My name is Leela. I am from J section. I came here to tell a topic in Python, user-defined exception. Now, in this PPT, we are going to learn about user-defined exception. Now, we are going to learn about user-defined exception. Before going to learn about user-defined exception, first you have to know about exception and what is exception. What is exception? An exception is an event which occurs during the execution of a program which disturbs the normal flow of the program's instructions. In general, when a Python script encounters a situation that it cannot cope with, and it raises an exception. An exception is a Python that represents an error. An exception is a Python object that represents an error. When a Python script raises an exception, it must either handle the expression immediately, otherwise it terminates and quits. User-defined exception. What is user-defined exception? Python allows us to create our own exceptions. Means we can create our own exceptions in Python. These exceptions are created from their own class directly or indirectly. Means these exceptions are created from their own classes directly or indirectly. Many user-defined functions are used rarely, where all the exceptions are raised from the package R or E. Many of these user-defined functions are used rarely, where all the exceptions are raised from the package called R or E. This is called user-defined exception in Python. Now we learn about what are user-defined exceptions in Python. User-defined exceptions in Python are created by the programmers to enforce the constraints on the values which the variables in the program can take. Means the programmers enforce the constraints on the values which the variables in the program can take. Python has many built-in functions which are raised when there is an error in the program. We know already that Python has so many built-in functions. Built-in functions, it can show the error in the program. A program automatically terminates after showing which inbuilt exception has occurred while executing the program when it reaches into undecided state. Means the program automatically terminates and after showing inbuilt function exception, it occurs while executing. The programs will reach into undecided state. We can stop the program from entering into undecided state by enforcing the constraints using user-defined exception. Now here we can use user-defined exception for not entering the program into an undecided state. How do you create a user-defined exception in Python? Creating user-defined exception, programmers may name their own exceptions by creating their own classes. Means creating user-defined exception, programmers name their own exceptions by a new class by creating a new exception class. Exceptions need to be derived from the exception class either directly or indirectly, although it is not mandatory. Most of the exceptions are named as names that end in error, similar to the naming standard exceptions in Python. Means exceptions are need to be derived from the exception class directly or indirectly, although it is not mandatory also. Most of the exceptions are named and in the end there is a word called error, similar to the naming of the standard exceptions in Python. Example of now we can see an example of user-defined exception in Python. There is one example. Define one class. Define one class. The name of the class is class user error, which inheriting the class runtime error. The user error is having one method constructor we have defined, and from the constructor we have called the class constructor in our runtime error. User error is one user defined class which is inheriting the best class. Now another side of the program, another block of the program, another part of the program, try block. In the try block, raise user error. To handle the situation, we are having the accept block, which is printing accept use error as e, print e dot args. After executing this program, after executing this user defined exception program, we are getting an output as small bracket open, single quotations, small u s e r, capital E, small r, o, small r, user error. After executing the above the program, we are getting an output called user error. This is all about user defined exception in Python programming language. Thank you.